So, as simple as they may seem, questions can be so powerful in changing the way that you think and feel about things, but also even changing the way that you spend your time. And we all want more time. So maybe you've heard me talk about my question that I love. What's the end result that I'm after? And there's two other questions that I kind of sandwich around that sometimes, and I'll link to that video below. So these are the three questions I ask to use as a filter to simplify just about anything in business or personal life. And the first question is, but today I've got another question for you that is so good. So hit subscribe quick and make sure you don't miss out on any more of these very simple, life-changing questions. I'm all about how can we make life easier without having to make it really complicated to make it easier. So the question for this week is, what would happen if I didn't? Super easy. Write it on a Post-it, stick it somewhere, stick it in multiple places if you need to. Don't just listen to this, because if you just listen to this but you don't ask yourself the question on a regular basis, it's obviously not going to make a difference. So start asking yourself this question regularly. What would happen if I didn't? Because we often jump into tasks or projects without even really thinking about them much, whether they're big things or whether it's just like cleaning up a mess around the house. And therefore, we tend to, dare I say, waste a lot of time on things that aren't very important or maybe are mildly important, but they're not as important as other things. And Corrie ten Boom said something to the effect of, if the devil cannot make you bad, he will make you busy. And my life's work, as I work with driven, overwhelmed Christian women, is to help you be as focused on the work that truly matters to you and to God as possible, without all the other millions of good things distracting you from the very best things. So try it. Ask yourself this question. What would happen if I didn't respond on this group text anymore? Clean up this mess that my kid just made? Answer work emails on the weekends? Attend that event that I normally go to every year? What would happen if I didn't have notifications on my phone for texts and instead I just checked texts on my own time? What would happen if I didn't meal plan? What would happen if I didn't use Facebook anymore? What would happen if I didn't give actual gifts to my nieces and nephews and gave them cash for birthdays instead? What would happen if I didn't return this library book on time? Like 10 cents a day? Big deal, right? Wait until you're driving past the library in a week and pay the $1 fine. It's a donation to your library, right? What would happen if I didn't fold my kids' laundry? What would happen if I didn't shave my legs in winter? Ask the questions. What would happen if I didn't bring homemade food to parties and potlucks anymore? What would happen if I didn't keep up with that TV series anymore that a bunch of my friends watch? What would happen if I didn't host or lead small group anymore? What would happen if I didn't attend the friend's wedding out of state? Or have birthday parties for my kids every year and did it every other year instead? Or what would happen if I didn't sell the stuff that I declutter and I donated it instead? Or if I didn't post on Instagram for my business as often or at all? I haven't used Instagram in my business for 3 years now. What would happen if I didn't have a smartphone anymore? That's something my husband and I are testing. So ask yourself these questions. And now I'm not saying that you are always going to ask yourself that question and come up with the answer that, oh, nothing would happen. Absolutely nothing at all bad or negative would happen. There would be no consequences to that. But often when we ask ourselves the question, we realize that the potential drawbacks of that are so small. And yes, there may be some consequences, but here's the thing. You always have a choice. You always have a choice in any situation. Like it is almost, there are very, 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 very rare situations where someone is going to physically force you to do something. Even the IRS, they cannot force you to pay your taxes. You have a choice whether or not to pay your taxes. I'm not saying there's not consequences if you don't pay your taxes, right? But you have that choice. So as a grown-up, then you get to decide, because you are not a victim. You do not have to do pretty much anything. You get to decide if it is a situation where you ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't do this? And there is somewhat of a drawback. You get to decide which cost you are willing to pay. Are you willing to pay the cost of continuing to spend your time on that thing, maybe doing something that you don't actually want to do or that doesn't align with your values? Or are you willing to pay the cost of maybe being misunderstood or someone being disappointed or not being the employee who is in the office 70 hours a week like other people are, like whatever it may be. You get to decide and be very honest with yourself about this, because some of us are the kind of people that if we ask ourselves, what would happen if I didn't do this? We blow things up in our head and make it into a big thing like the world will end and people will hate me. And you have to be realistic with yourself about these things. Be honest with yourself. Now, being honest with yourself doesn't mean that you say, if I don't attend my friend's wedding out of state, she will not care at all and it will be totally fine. Unless that's true. Maybe that is true. If it's not true, be honest with yourself. Well, she might not understand. She might be a little bummed because we are good friends or whatever, but be realistic and honest about that. And then if there is a downside, you can mitigate that a little bit. So ask yourself this question. I just recently, my husband and I were on vacation for our 10-year anniversary. And so our son was out of school because our oldest was out of school for a few days. He's in preschool because he was staying with our parents. And so that was the week that they were going to be doing Valentine's and celebrating Valentine's Day at school, which he doesn't even know what all that stuff is, honestly. And so I had a choice. Do I want to get all of his Valentines ready before we leave for vacation, which his teacher wanted them to write out. She wanted the kids themselves to write out every classmate's name on the Valentines and then cut out a picture of the kids. She gave out a piece of paper with a picture of each child on it. She wanted them to cut out the picture and glue that onto each kid's Valentine as well, because she wanted these 4-year-olds who can't read to be able to match a face with their friends' little Valentine's bags and be able to hand them out. So, good practice for him to write and do all the cutting and everything. But I thought, he's not even going to be in school for this. No one's going to notice if Harry doesn't hand out Valentines. And his teacher would have to be the one who goes around and puts all of his Valentines in his friends' bags anyway. And so I thought about it. What would happen if I didn't do this? And okay, maybe there would be a chance that the teacher would think that I'm a lazy, selfish mom. I doubt it. We have a good relationship. Or maybe Harry would make a comment and be sad about it or something. But really, when I thought about it, that the potential downsides were so small. And yet that is totally one of those things that most of us, especially as moms and people who tend to follow rules and just kind of do the things that we're asked to do and that other people are doing, that is totally one of those things that I could very easily have literally spent hours on supervising that process with him of writing out the names and cutting out the pictures and gluing them on for 20 friends in his class. It's so easily something I could have spent hours on, and it wouldn't have been a bad thing by any means, but it wouldn't have been the best use of my time in those days leading up to our trip. So I hope this helps you. I want you to comment below and tell me, what is something you're going to apply this question to? Look at your to-do list right now even, or think about the goals that you have or the things that are in your email inbox, whatever, and ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't? And make sure, like I said, that you subscribe and you join my email family. I have an awesome free workbook I would love to share with you. You can click the link below to check that out or go to dianakerr.com/workbook. I will see you soon.